Hey, I know it's been a long time since I've made a video, and I have had plans on making a bunch. I know I was going to do a series in the van, and I didn't. I did the rocker replacement, and then I was going to do the bagging the front, and I didn't. Then I was going to do the truck that I had in here, the 58 Ford, and I didn't. Then I was going to do the rear of the van, and I just didn't. Obviously, the rear of the van's been bagged. Everybody knows that if you follow me on social medias, on Instagram or Facebook, or our friends on Facebook, whatever. But the push to try to get back into doing some video stuff is this car right behind me. It's Roger Kaling's 1950 Chevy. And it has already had quite a bit of work done to it. It's definitely not factory. But we're going to bag it. We're installing a Murray's custom rods kit in the rear. And the front is already a Mustang 2 swap. So I'm just going to do a simple bag on that. Doing some preliminary looking here already. Looks like there's definitely going to be some cutting going on in the front. And it has, or he had bought a bag cup kit. I believe it's from Switch Suspension, whichever Mustang 2 bag cup kit they have. And they're a little tall. I'm going to have to trim them down and probably do a couple little other small things cutting wise on the front of this to get the bags in and get it how I like it. There are definitely better Mustang 2 kits out there if you're going to bag the front. This one's already installed, so we're just going to run with what's in it instead of trying to cut this out and redo a bunch of other stuff and spend thousands of dollars on something new. So we're just going to go ahead and bag this one and do what we have to do to get the front down to where it needs to be. So we're doing, like I said, the Murray's custom rod kit in the rear, bagging the Mustang 2 that's already existing in the front. This thing is already LT swapped with the 4L60E and has the rear end out of a 1966 Chevelle in it. We may have to narrow that a little bit to get those 20-inch Detroit steel wheels to tuck up underneath there. I know he preliminary did some fitting on the rear, and he said they're really tight. So if we got to narrow the rear end, we'll narrow the rear end up a little bit. But without further ado, I'm going to try to keep these videos kind of short and sweet. Try to keep them down to the sub 10-minute mark. I don't want to get crazy drawn out like that or anything like that. Hopefully this should be a pretty straightforward install, and let's have some fun. You're most likely going to see my 5-year-old granddaughter running around here. She's already bugging me and begging me to be on the video and make videos with me. So I think we're going to get her involved and have a little bit of fun. And this would be my helper and my new videographer. And of course she's running away now. So this is Miss Serenity. She's my mini-me. She is, how old are you?
5.
5. She's going to be helping me out with the channel now. She's going to be my videographer.
Tragic.
I expect a lot of crazy stuff like that. Anyway, we're still working on this. I've got the one side just about mocked up, getting ready to do some final fitment of the bag cup on the upper and the lower. And right now I'm going to show you how I cut the upper bag cup to accommodate this. I think this kit is for running a drop spindle. Measurement wise, this car already seems to have drop spindles on it. So I'm sure it would lay out with a 3-inch upper cup if it had a 15-inch wheel on it with like a 225 60 15. However, it's got a 20 on it with a 235 35, which is like 26.5 inches tall, as opposed to like a 24-inch tall. So we needed to make some accommodations to get it to lay all the way down on a 20. So without further ado here, let me show you what I did with the bag cup, and then I'm going to weld that in, and we'll have a look-see at the car and what I did to get that little bit extra clearance around that bag. All right. On the front of the car here, like I said, it is Mustang 2 swapped already. I got the bag plate sitting in here. I just literally pulled this spring and shock out. They already trimmed some of the inner fender on this. It looks like to do the LT, they made a little modification to the frame right there. Well, I got to trim at least here just for the control arm to get up in there. It's hitting right now, and I'm about 1.5 inches away from being laid out. It does have a strut rod on it. I didn't notice any too much pull on the cycle I did with the suspension. I'm going to do it a couple more times and see if this is pulling on, going to cause any bump steer issues or any suspension travel issues. If it is, then we will eliminate the strut rod, triangulate this lower, make a couple of tabs come off the frame here, and put a bushing in right there. But we're only going to do that if we have to. I'm pretty sure for the tire, we're going to have to cut this out a little bit more, and it's mostly just for turning. Looking at it, the tire and wheel should fit up in there. It's a big old hole. So I do believe it will fit in there without any cutting. It's just to be able to turn, it's going to have to be cut. But I'm going to try to cut it as least as possible. So that way it gets it away from that bag, where that bag was. So this is the factory one. Or, well, not the factory one, the one it came with. This is the one I did. You can see the difference. It's pretty clear. Now let's go have a look-see at the car right quick. Now pop it. Alright, here we are. This is what I ended up doing, just because of the way this bag cup is. I'm going to have to weld this because it's not welded on the inside. It's like stitch welded. I'm going to weld this solid. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that. So I took the little hat that the shock mounts to right off, and inside there's a 3-inch cup, and that 3-inch cup is the inside diameter of the coil spring that goes in here. So I took a hole saw and cut it out, and I modified the bag cup. Sorry, trying to get it so you can see it. So I modified the bag cup so that way the bag cup sits inside the tower here, just like it's supposed to, and it comes up and touches the tower. So what I'm going to do is where it touches the tower in the front here, I'm going to weld all the way across there. I'm going to weld in here where the two meet. I'm going to weld this up, and then in the back here, there's a part that flanges down and touches. I'm going to weld that too, but I'm going to cut this right here. I'm going to cut this part, and I'm going to dish it a little bit with a piece of pipe, because the bag does touch. At full layout, the bag touches. At 1 inch up, the bag doesn't touch. Well, if I move that back, 3/4 of an inch, then nothing ever touches. So that little flange up at the top, I'm going to trim it and bend it out more to where it touches again, and I'll weld it. That way I get full. And then this lower cup that floats here, I'm going to line this up, and where this touches right here, I'm going to put a little stitch weld here and there on the other side, and that should do it. And then we'll figure out shock mounts. And up here, we'll just go with the straight fitting and come straight out with our airline, and done is done. And it'll be a permanent bag cup instead of a removable bag cup. And then on the side of the road, if you need to, you can just come right in here with the bolt or a wrench and zap the 2 upper bolts out, zap the lower bolt out, and just go ahead and swap out the bag. All right, now tight quarters. And let's see, there we go. Got the bag in here. Got this bag plate. Got it tacked in place. Now that I got that part notched and welded, now you can see how much room I got all the way around the bag. So now I'm not worried about that bag ever hitting the frame through its cycle while it's laid out, way up like that, or while it's all the way up. Plenty of room. Well, then there's that. But plenty of room around that bag now. Now we're going to take this and tack it in place And then we'll pull this all apart again and weld it out. Wrap it up for this episode. Next episode, we're going to triangulate this lower control arm, and we're going to make a shock mount off that triangulation for the lower control arm to hold the bottom of the shock mount and keep it tucked in real tight to the lower control arm and just get us some better geometry on that. Right now, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to go over to the driver's side, and I'm going to replicate what I did here on the passenger side and get that all ready. So that way when I do this triangulation, I can make both of them at the same time, put them on, and the front of this car will be done. So, till next time, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Feel free to leave me a comment. And we're going to keep rolling with this, the car, the kid, maybe some truck stuff.